Hey tea cakes, so today I'm going to be talking to you about the film The Private Life of Sherlock Holmes, or TPLoSH as nerds like myself call it, and how we can use that and what we know about that and what we know the writers of BBC Sherlock feel about that, and how we can use all of that in support of TJLC and in support of the idea that John Locke is going to become canon at the end or at some point during BBC Sherlock. Yeah, so that's what I'm going to be talking about in this video. I would highly suggest that you guys watch The Private Life of Sherlock Holmes before watching this video. It would make a lot more sense if you did. It's on Netflix, it's definitely in the UK version of Netflix, and you know, watch that. It's probably online somewhere illegally as well, so you can watch it there, or like, you know, buy the DVD, old school or something. But you know, if you haven't watched it, don't worry, I'm going to be talking about it, explaining what it is generally, but you know, spoilers also. I mean, I know the film's like 100 years old, like I don't think anyone's really still avoiding spoilers for it, but you know, just in case, spoiler warning. Let's whip out this notebook of oh god, I need to stop doing that. This book is falling apart, Jesus Christ. Anyway, gotta find the page again now. Anyway, let's whip out my book of meta-ish notes and let's get into the information. Yes, I know how to do videos. The Private Life of Sherlock Holmes is a film that was released in 1970 and directed by Billy Wilder. It's basically just a pretty average-ish, kind of meh adaptation of Sherlock, like, you know, kind of basic. But there's one very significant thing about it, and that is that it suggests heavily, really suggests that Sherlock is gay. Like it pretty much says it, but it doesn't, and that's the important thing you gotta remember about this film. That's why it's so rad. TPLoSH is one of Mark and Stephen's favourite Holmes adaptations, and they talk about it loads in interviews and stuff, and like they always like mention it, and they always compare their adaptation BBC Sherlock to TPLoSH, so they're obviously very heavily influenced by it, and like they obviously made BBC Sherlock with TPLoSH in mind. Like, we want to do something very similar to that. Mark Gatiss has even like said that it is the film that changed his life, and here is a quote from Mark about TPLoSH. It says, "The relationship between Sherlock and Watson is treated beautifully. Sherlock effectively falls in love with him, but it is so desperately unspoken." That is adorable, if I say so myself. That is one of the cutest things I've ever heard. And if the writer of BBC Sherlock said this, which he did, you would think he'd put that in BBC Sherlock, which he did. That's effectively something in which they have carried over from TPLoSH into BBC Sherlock, and it's pretty obvious. Let's talk about some of the super gay things that happen in TPLoSH, because there's lots of them, and they're really obvious and gay, and I love them, and I love that film. So the main thing is there's this scene. You'll know if you watched it. If not, I'm just kind of describing it for you. There's this like ballerina, and she wants Sherlock to have her baby, and Sherlock's like, nah, I'm gay, and he's lying apparently to get out of this situation, but he goes as far to say that he's been in a happy relationship with John for 5 years, and he says this, you know, as like a decoy to get out of this ballerina wanting to have his child. But there's so many other ways you could have done that. So yeah, that's pretty obvious. And after that, he gets home and John is mad at him because he told this person that he's gay and that they're in a relationship, and John is super mad at this. And this is something I need to talk about, because personally I have always read John Watson as a character who has a lot of internalised biphobia and homophobia. That is kind of where, like, if you don't know what that is, it's where somebody who is like queer themselves, because John is bisexual, obviously, I've talked about this before, kind of like have to repress that, obviously, because like in the original and in TPLoSH, He was like in Victorian times, like he couldn't be openly bi, or like in like BBC Sherlock, it's because his dad was homophobic. Like obviously these are things. This is just like my personal headcanon thing situation, but John has his sexuality really repressed, so this is why he is kind of slightly homophobic in TPLoSH, and also why he gets defensive when people think that him and Sherlock are together in like any adaptation, but like he does that in BBC Sherlock. And like, you know, that's a bad thing, it's unhealthy, but it explains why he gets defensive and why he can come across as homophobic sometimes, and like especially in TPLoSH he's really bad and problematic. But in BBC Sherlock they're going to fix that, and when John and Sherlock get together in BBC Sherlock, we are going to see John overcome his internalised homophobia and become a better person for it and become a happier person. And that is some amazing character development and representation that we really need right now. So I'm looking forward to that. That's the thing. Yeah. Anyway, in TPLoSH, after John has done his like being mad thing, they have a little conversation, and John says that Sherlock must have been with women before, and asks her like if he's being presumptuous. And then Sherlock says that he's being presumptuous, so he's basically confirming that he's never done a thing with a girl. And yeah, so that's also a pretty gay thing that happened in TPLoSH. Also, the version of Sherlock which is played in TPLoSH has been said like on loads of occasions to be played or like portrayed as very camp, and it's very similar to the way that he's portrayed in BBC Sherlock. So, you know, that's kind of stereotypically gay. But super important thing to remember is that TPLoSH doesn't confirm anything. It like, there's all these questions thrown around, and it like suggests a load of things. My phone just vibrated, it suggests loads of things, but it doesn't state anything. Like nothing is like 100% said, yes he's definitely gay, or yes he's definitely not. It's kind of all just like left a bit and like we don't really know, it's just suggested a lot. But Billy Wilder, the dude who made TPLoSH, said that he regrets like not going all the way and not confirming that Sherlock is gay because he thinks that he is. And he even said this quote, I have another quote, look at all my evidence that I have for you guys today. In an interview years after TPLoSH was released, he said, I should have been more down with the private life of Sherlock Holmes, but unfortunately the son of Conan Doyle was there. I wanted to make Holmes a homosexual, that is why he is on dope. The idea that Sherlock is on drugs because he is gay and because he is like repressing his sexuality and his romantic attraction and whatever is made very obvious in BBC Sherlock when Sherlock relapses and goes back on drugs after John gets married. Like, so they obviously took this idea from what Billy Wilder said about Sherlock and put it in BBC Sherlock. And this isn't the only thing that like is in BBC Sherlock that was obviously very inspired by or influenced by TPLoSH. Like I've got a whole list and I'm going to tell you them right now. I have made a list of like very distinct parallels between the private life of Sherlock Holmes and the Abominable Bride. I'm not even going to try and attempt to say that word again. The Christmas special of BBC Sherlock. I've made a list specifically about this episode because I think there were more obvious ones in here, because obviously this episode was like mostly set in Victorian times, which is the same time that TPLoSH was set in, so obviously it would have been more easy for them to put in like these clear references and kind of like nods to TPLoSH that are distinctly telling us that BBC Sherlock was largely inspired by the private life of Sherlock Holmes. So let's go with my massive big long list of the things that happened in Abominable that thing, Bride, that are very similar to things that happened in TPLoSH. So the first thing is that there are very similar scenes of John and Sherlock returning from a long case and being greeted by Mrs. Hudson, and literally watch those scenes side by side. They're both at the beginning and they're literally the same scene, just like remade. They both have lines that say blame it on the illustrator, about like what they have to wear now to be noticed and like their image. And then there's, you know, the summer house scene, the gay one in AB. Yeah, that's very similar. It's very similarly phrased, has the very sort of similar idea to the "you're being presumptuous" scene I mentioned earlier. They both have scenes, sort of lines, where Sherlock is annoyed that there is a woman in Baker Street. They both have Sherlock making observations that a character has high arches, and they both have plots where there's a supposedly supernatural thing or being, whether it's like a monster or a ghost-bride thing, that end up being tricks and like not real, just like, yeah. And they also have very similar sets, like even in BBC Sherlock, where it's like all set in modern times, like, you know, most series, like the set of Baker Street is like very similar to the one that's in TPLoSH, like more similar than any other adaptation. It's obviously inspired by that one. And in the Christmas special there is a character called Wilder, which is the name of the dude who made TPLoSH. Like, just there, casually, just to make it really obvious. There are also loads of things like throughout the entire show of BBC Sherlock that are obviously like inspired by the private life of Sherlock Holmes. Like the characterization of like pretty much all of the characters, especially Mycroft, like is pretty identical to what they are like in TPLoSH, more so than like what they're like to any other adaptation, because like in the original Conan Doyle character, the characterization of like most like the side characters now a bit all over the place, and like, but like they're definitely inspired by TPLoSH. I'm pretty sure that Mark even said so himself at one point, that he played Mycroft to be very similar to the character of Mycroft in Private Life, so you know. Also, Mrs. Hudson has some very similar lines and scenes and kind of like phrases and stuff, and her characterization is very, very similar to what it is in Private Life. And like, because her characterization was kind of all over the place in the original, so like they could have took any sort of like version or whatever of her that is mentioned in the original or from any of the adaptation, but there went another one from TPLoSH. You know, it's like if you watched The Private Life and watched some episodes of BBC Sherlock, she has like some literally similar, like exactly the same lines at some point. Also, the BBC Sherlock episode Scandal in Belgravia, literally the same plot as TPLoSH, like not even kidding, like kind of like pretty much the second half, and it's literally just TPLoSH. It's remade. It's, you know, it's a good story, but they stole it from TPLoSH. So with all of this in mind, it is really obvious that the BBC Sherlock writers used TPLoSH as like their main influence for BBC Sherlock. It's like, it's practically a remake. So if we're calling it a remake, which, I mean, like, obviously it's a show in its own rights, but, you know, it was their main influence, and obviously they really liked TPLoSH, like they've said that, so obviously, you know, they're inspired by it, and they're doing this new modern show inspired by it. They're gonna fix the one thing that the dude who made TPLoSH said that he regretted not doing in TPLoSH, and they're gonna establish, they're gonna properly say, confirm, 100%, say it's true, that Sherlock is gay. And that's basically the point of this. So now we have this other very, very real reason for them to want to make John Locke canon and to want to confirm Sherlock's sexuality, and just, you know, to make the world a better place by telling everyone that Sherlock is gay and that he's in love with John, and it's real and it's amazing. So let's just stick this thing onto our massive big pile of TJLC evidence, and you know, everything's rad. So thank you for watching this video. Please give it a thumbs up if you liked it. Let me know that you enjoyed it. Do the comments. Let's have a bit of a debate. Let's talk about this thing. Do you agree? Do you not agree? Give me your thoughts and opinions, and what sort of meta type things you want me to do. I'm definitely going to do a lot more of this sort of stuff because it's fun. Obviously I'm having a good time, aren't I? Yeah, so thank you very much for watching. Please subscribe, hit the subscribe. I'm almost at 200 subscribers, which is insane. And thank you so much, guys. And check out all of my links in the description. I went to Sherlock's convention yesterday and I did a vlog, so that's over on my vlogging travel channel if you want to check that out. I would appreciate it very much. You like it. Obviously you like Sherlock, you're watching this. Yeah, thank you for watching this. I love you guys. Goodbye.